Joined now by Tina Griffin, the counterculture mom. Tina, thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. We got one more thing to tackle this week.
Boy, don't we? Hey, boy, it's amazing how HBO and all cable TV has gone full bore down the trans road. Talk about this latest special that HBO is going to be putting out there for people to watch.
Absolutely. It's like new comedy here. I just look at these stories and actually start laughing. It's so ridiculous. A Trans Hood is coming out. It's an HBO documentary on November 12th, and then it'll be available for streaming on HBO Max. It's about 4 kids that a production team has basically followed for the last 5 years, all from the Kansas City area, about living the transgender lifestyle, what their family structure looks like, what their daily activities look like, what life is like. And these are for kids between the ages of 4 and 15 years old. That's the wide spectrum of age that they covered in this documentary. So that's going to be out there on HBO for millions of people to watch. My main concern is, are they going to glamorize this lifestyle and say it's a cool, hip, trendy thing to do? Or are they going to show the struggles around that? But either way, Dr. Duke, believe it or not, I think it's important for all of us to actually watch this program.
Take a look at this video clip and we'll talk about it.
It started early, 6, 7 years old, and she would tell us, I'm a little girl.
I just always knew, I just didn't know the word for it.
Children before puberty do not have medical interventions. It is a social transition.
Girl boy is a boy want to be a girl.
You identified as girl boy.
Nuh-uh, me boy.
We'll call you a girl later if you want.
What I really hope is that people realize we're human. We're not like some exotic species. We have human emotions. That's what matters.
At what point in this culture did we get away from the basic tenets of biology and genetics? At what point in this culture did we get away from the idea that there were actual things, right? That nothing was reducible to our emotions. Maybe that's part of what the problem is, Tina, that this is exclusively an emotional issue.
That's absolutely it. And for people to not even hit the puberty stage, some of these kids a decade away from puberty, blows my mind. And the key thing I want to come back to is, Satan's come to steal, kill, and destroy, and it just comes down to that. He wants to destroy the very fabric of our DNA, of our human existence, of Adam and Eve. And the thing that I want to just pose as a question, some stuff I've been doing research on for the last pretty much 2 decades, is vaccines and the damaging things that happens as a result of getting vaccines. And I just want to pose this question. If you have a live baby girl and this girl is given between 25 and 30 vaccines in the first year of life alone, but a lot of the DNA makeup of that vaccine comes from dead baby boy DNA, what is that doing? Could it be wreaking havoc on that young baby girl? That is something we have to look at. And I'll tell you what, a couple of different events I went at, it was like God just dropped that content in my head. Tina, you're on the right track. So it's something I've been questioning a lot of, because 20, 30 years ago, a couple decades ago, we didn't have this issue. But we also didn't have babies getting the opposite dead DNA body parts in vaccines in children 20, 30 years ago. Today we are.
Well, it's a great question. It's even broader than that. We hear all these fears about genetically modified foods. We hear all this. It's a perfectly legitimate question, it seems to me, Tina, to ask, why now? Right? Other than the fact that it's progressive and hip in some instances to argue that gender is nothing. Fair enough, right? There are a lot of social issues that we're able to rear kids to believe. But with all of this stuff going on now, and we think about how we're feeding people, you mentioned vaccines, we mentioned how these genetically modified types of food that people are more or less eating in many instances, I think it's a fair question. Is there a scientific, is there a nutritional, is there a vaccine related, are there culture, are there environmental issues going on right now that are leading to some of this? What I saw in that trailer they sent us, we just looked at, what I saw was a lot of leading the question, right? Avoiding any of that stuff and just immediately surrendering to what must be now the only way you can approach your children when you raise them.
And I think you're right on with that, because if these certain situations didn't exist decades ago, what has changed in our culture today? And instead of embracing it as a positive thing, I keep coming down to the Word of God and what does God say? There's two genders, male and female, and that is what I base everything else off of. So there's a reason that something is going awry in our culture, physically, emotionally, if we have things like this happen, because God wouldn't say a certain scripturally based truth and then say, but anything is okay. So we have to love these kids with truth. Absolutely, we shouldn't be rude, hateful, judgmental, but point them to what the Word of God says, which is two genders, and let's figure out what is happening in our culture that's causing these issues.
Well, I would suggest it's not just the Bible. It's you also have the basic underpinnings. Exactly. I mean, so whether you're coming at it from a religious or you're unreligious at all, and you have to confront with the genetic and the scientific and the biological realities, what is it, to go back to that young lady at the very end of that clip, when did we decide as a culture that what you feel is what matters? It's way bigger than a gender question, right? If you can convince kids that they're uncomfortable or unsafe about anything, then you got to stop doing that thing. I'll give you one example. As a university professor, I'm seeing this now. If kids are these are 21, 22-year-old kids, aren't kids. If they're uncomfortable with the topic, they shouldn't have to listen to it. This is what you're going to get more of when you start bringing this stuff into kids at young ages.
I couldn't agree more. And there's like 50 different things happening in elementary schools online that are bombarding kids with these crazy questions. I mean, and situations. Even Facebook has 71 gender options right now. That's unbelievable. I'm confused trying to read what these gender options are. And so that's the issue with, is these kids are given so many different options. They aren't even given the basis of scientific knowledge as an option any longer, but with two different sexes. But the thing I want to tell parents is if we watch this program with our kids, it can be a really good learning tool to then say, hang on a second, right now this is what the program is explaining, but here is what scientific proof is backing up is actual truthful about this, because we can't just keep our kids in a bubble and pretend that this is not happening. They're going to have friends that will be transgender. How do we share with them truth? How do we help them through these situations? Because I can tell you, Dr. Duke, over the years, I do not have hundreds of transgender students coming up to me after doing a school assembly or blasting me in my inbox with questions saying that they love their lifestyle. A majority of these kids are reaching out saying, please help me. I have these tendencies. I'm, living this lifestyle I don't believe in. I can't sleep at night. I have anxiety, depression. They don't want to be living a certain lifestyle, but they're feeling led to do so or swayed, or it's a trendy thing to do. So I think it's important that we reach out and help the people that want help with this lifestyle and love them through it, but definitely point them at truth.
Let's give the people out there a sense where they can find your information.
Absolutely. There's a lot of different info. You can go to counterculturemom.com, connect with me all over the place there. We have a YouTube channel. I download my Counterculture Mom app. That gives you notifications throughout the day of the latest news breaking, where you know how to protect your kids and also give them positive news and entertainment options from video games, TV shows, magazines, you name it.